Şimdi ben sözü Marcus Tober'e bırakacağım. Belirttiğim gibi kendisi Searchmetrics'in CTO'su ve kurucusu. Gerçekten çok değerli bir isim. Bugün size anlatacağı bilgiler de şu anlamda çok değerli. Searchmetrics biliyorsunuz dünyada milyonlarca keyword'ü track ediyor. Ve ellerinde inanılmaz bir veri var. Yani şu anda dünyadaki en büyük SEO verisi. Ve bugün burada sahneye hangimiz çıkarsak çıkalım, paylaştığımız öngörüleri aslında Searchmetrics size tamamen data driven ve datayı arkasına alarak cevap verebiliyor. Bunu sponsorumuz olduğu için değil, gerçekten servislerine bütün kalbime inandığım için söylüyorum. O yüzden burada Marcus'un bize sunacağı datalar çok çok değerli diyorum ve lafı kendisine bırakıyorum sözü. Teşekkürler dinlediğiniz için.
Thank you, man. All right, so let's check if my mic works. Does it work? Can you hear me? Okay, cool. By the way, do I have a clicker? Yigit? Do I have a clicker to click through my slides? You stole it. That's crazy. That's a really good crowd. Really proud to be here. So I hope that you understand my English. And I don't know if my slides are also available in Turkish. I hope so, because I sent them in last week. And yeah, I mean, like Yigit said, the stuff that we do, that's very data-driven. So we developed a software in the last 10 years. Everything is based on data. And I thought it makes sense to give you a lot of insights in how the world is changing within search, because it can be measured. It's not just a gut feeling, it's really that you can measure it, and that's what I'm bringing here with, is a lot of data, and we call them ranking factors, but it's also a lot of data to understand how the world is changing and how does this affect your business. If you want to have the presentation anyway, you can download them for free on SlideShare. Yeah, like Yigit said, I'm the founder and CTO of Searchmetrics. I do SEO since 2001, and it's really amazing to see how SEO changed over the time, especially how important it became for companies. So it's not about link spamming anymore, it's about link earning, as we just saw in the former presentation. Everything is made with love in Berlin, but we also have an office in Silicon Valley. We have about 200 people globally, and if you really want to get more information about us, we have a booth outside. You can talk to our people. We also have Jansu, who is our partner manager, or she, and you can talk to her. She is a native speaker in Turkish. All right, so you can see the screen. That's great. So yeah, that's a little bit more stuff. But let's start with the presentation. So the theme for my presentation that I've chosen is back to relevance. Why is it back to relevance? Because if you go back in time and really see how the internet started 20 years ago, it was that people remembered websites, right? There was the Yahoo directory that was collecting really good websites. They put it in their directory. People used bookmarking services. A couple of you, maybe they remember Delicious. Yeah, Delicious, they were really successful. I guess nobody's using Delicious anymore. But why was Delicious so important? It's because people wanted to remember the good sites. And now, because we have so many options, we have so many sites, they're offering all the same, we forgot all these services like Delicious. But I believe because of this diversity, because of the competition, I mean, look at e-commerce, right? I mean, I can buy a product on hundreds or even thousands of different stores. And why do I choose one store? Because this one maybe has a better user experience, a better user interface, maybe reviews. That's why I chose the topic back to relevance, because it really, the user really matters now. If I, as a company, if I want to make a difference, I have to think about the user and not about things like search engines. But before we start talking about the ranking factors, about a lot of technical stuff, let's talk a little bit about search in general. And many of you use search engines every day, or many, many times every day. And what you don't recognize is, because if you don't look how it changes over time, we are already in the future. The stuff that my colleague Marcus Tober was speaking about in the morning, the futures now, is here already. Google is already using artificial intelligence to improve the search, but we don't really recognize it because we only have our single view on a page every day. But if you take a look on what happened over time, you will see what happened. But let's go back in time first. Let's say 10 years ago, in 2005. I don't know if you know this joke, but an SEO walks into a bar, beer garden, lounge, hangout hole, nightclub. You know this tactic, okay? I mean, take all similar words, put them in a title tag, and then that's a very common tactic to optimize for search engines, right? But these times, they are gone. The old-fashioned way also used to be to create content for keywords, not for the user. And there's one example from a company called Demand Media. They were pretty large and very successful with it. And eHow was one of their most important platforms. And here's an example on how to get pregnant. Yeah, how to get pregnant. So if you search on Google how many articles they have on how to get pregnant, they have about 1,600 different articles on how to get pregnant. I mean, that's a lot of stuff to read, right? 1,600 ways on how to get pregnant. But the reality is they just created a lot of thin content because they took different search phrases and created stupid content. That's why the visibility, the SEO visibility, by the way, a metric that you can also check for free on our website on suite.searchmetrics.com, also for the Turkish market with a lot of historical data, the visibility of eHow looks like this. It's kind of not a good trend, right? If this is the stock price of your company, that's probably a bad sign, right? But the thing is, if you look at their visibility and then make a correlation, take a look at the visibility, and what we did is we just put another chart on top, which is the stock price of Demand Media. Looks very similar, right? And the reason is because they are heavily depending on search engine traffic. And if you have a business and you heavily depend on search engine traffic, and you create something that's not sustainable, then you could run into a problem. And if you are a public company and you have to do quarterly reports, so your CFO has to do it, then the CFO wants to know, hey, how we are doing within search. That's why that really matters. And in 2005, people used to create content just for keywords. They took different keywords and ranked with these different contents for all these different keywords. It was a very common tactic, very common. But that's not the reality anymore. The reality is different. The reality is that you have one landing page. You can extend this page. I will show a couple examples. And then you rank with multiple queries. I know it's complicated to understand. I know it's also complicated to analyze, but I will show you a couple examples. It makes it easier to understand and to digest. The keyword is dead. That's one of my messages, but the keyword is only dead in our mind because the user itself, he doesn't care, right? If we say SEO is dead, no, it's not dead. The keyword is dead, no, it's not dead. The user doesn't matter because he goes on search engine. It doesn't matter if it's Google or Bing or Yandex or Baidu in China. The user still puts words in it, phrases. He articulates his problems, his needs. So why do I tell you that the keyword is dead if the user is still putting keywords or words within a search engine? And one of the answers is, it's Hummingbird. Hummingbird was released 2.5 years ago. I can imagine that many of you don't remember anymore what Hummingbird is because it's such a long time ago. Some of you maybe heard about RankBrain, maybe today in the morning keynote, or maybe some of you read about RankBrain, but actually the machine learning aspect of what Google is doing, like with Hummingbird, that's Google doing since 2.5 years. And I will show you an example. Before Hummingbird, you had many different results for many different queries. After Hummingbird, it got less because one landing page is ranking for many different terms. But what happened if one page is more successful than ever? What happens? It happens that all the others who used to rank, they're not visible anymore. And this is something we measured. So we took 5 years historical data. Oh, let's talk about this example first, and then I show you the other stuff. So I took an example within the recipe space. It's about boiling eggs, and I took different keyword types. The first one is boiled egg is what you call shorthead, a shorthead keyword. The other one, hard-boiled egg recipe, that's more like the mid-tail, so in the middle. And then we have the long tail, how long does it take to boil an egg? That's actually a complete question that you can put in Google. So a couple of years ago, you had completely different pages ranking for these terms. But if you look now, so this is from last week, if you look now, you have 3 pages that have very good rankings, and they're the same. So for Google, it means that these pages, they answer the question for all these keywords. And then we have also, just look at the green highlights. These rankings, they share either one or the other result here. But what's even more scary, if you continue to search and go deeper into the long tail, so for example, how to cook the perfect boiled egg, or what is the best method for hard-boiled eggs? So actually really crazy, in-depth questions. We have the same sites ranking, the same. And that's interesting, because for these pages it means that one page gets more and more and more and more rankings, it gets more and more successful. And this is something you can also measure. This is the statistics that I have mentioned. So in the last 5 years, we took a look on who used to rank and who's now ranking, and we found out that 89% of the domains that used to have at least one ranking, they're gone. These are all the spam projects of myself, Marcus Tober from Yigit, all the spam projects, they're all gone. And maybe some of you used to have some spam projects too, maybe. But I heard that the turkey is very white-head, probably. Okay, so let me give you an example of one of these pages that's heavily good ranking within the recipe space. This page is ranking for the terms that I've mentioned, like boiled eggs, how long does it take to boil an egg, all these different queries. And this page is called the kitchen, or that's the domain name, and that's the landing page. How to boil eggs perfectly every time. What you see is a screenshot of how the page looks like above the fold. Okay? So there's a very large image, there are other articles, there's no commercial, no ad distracting from the content. But actually, if you take a snapshot of the whole page, at first the page is not keyword optimized, okay? It's not optimized just for keywords. But this is how the full page looks like. It's a long page full of content, full of images, full of videos. This is what we call, it's a holistic page. And if you take a look on the success of this page, this one single landing page ranks for 464 keywords on number 1. Not in total, no, on number 1. And interesting is, if you take a look on, if you group these keywords and then take a look on the website itself, they clustered content. So for example, how long does it take to boil an egg? This is the green area. This is what they highlighted in the beginning of the content. Then they took other stuff. This is here on red. The perfect boiled egg and the best way to boil an egg. This is below this. So this is what it's also called storytelling. So there's a story about boiling eggs, and it has different aspects. The perfect boiled egg, hard-boiled eggs, how long does it take, instructions, and so on. So if you take a look on the full page, it's phenomenal. It's good designed, and that's why if you take a look on the SEO visibility of the kitchen, it's continuously increasing. But if this is the case, does it mean for your business you only need to create long pages and then you're done? Maybe. That's why I dig deeper and took a look on the historical data that we have crawled from the kitchen over the past years. So we have our own crawler, we are crawling the web, we update 250 billion data objects every month, and that's why we could analyze the kitchen and some of their pages. This is how one of their landing pages, this is not the egg example, this is a different recipe page. This is how the page looked in 2011. A couple years later, in 2014, you saw they extended the content. So they put more content on it, they put more images on it, they put more stuff on it. So they created a better user experience with more data and so on. If you take a look now, so this is a snapshot from last week. Now this page is even longer, and they also put structured content on it. Bullet points for things like the ingredients, for things like the tutorial how to boil the eggs. And this is the crazy thing. If you continuously develop your page, if you create a better user experience, the content gets longer and better, and this is the way to go. This is the way to become more successful. There's one page who's really, really, really successful with it. That's kind of the ideal page. I call it always the most or best optimized page in the world. So a question to the audience, what do you think, what is the best optimized page in the world? Oh. Right, Wikipedia. Why Wikipedia? Because Wikipedia is continuously updated. The people know that Wikipedia, they get accurate content on the pages. It's one static URL. It gets updated all the time. But what happens in our business very often, the content writers, they just create a new page. Oh, I have an idea. I create a new page. I don't take a look if I have content already. No, I just take a new one. So there's one example that I had last year at Valentine's Day. And if you are, the customer was a gift shop, and if you are a gift shop, online gifts, and you sell this stuff, Valentine's Day is one of your most important events in the year. Of course, there's Christmas, there are a couple other events, Halloween, but Valentine's Day, there's a spike, there's a big spike. This customer we had used to rank for Valentine's Day gifts really good, position number 1, 2, or 3, something like above the fold in Google. A couple days before Valentine's Day happened, the editor, so the content writer on the page, thought it's a really good idea to create new content for Valentine's Day because of new gifts, new stuff, created new content under a new URL, and what happened? The ranking of the old URL completely dropped. The new URL in Google, I think they ranked on the second page somewhere, and the old URL just disappeared because Google wasn't able to understand what's important now. They didn't got traffic at Valentine's Day, and they lost a lot of traffic or potential traffic because they didn't have the traffic. That's why the Wikipedia example or this with the kitchen is so important. But what do you do if you create these holistic websites? You put together things the user really cares about. Requests, questions, concerns, problems, all the stuff he's interested in. You put it together and then you try to cluster it and then you create content out of it. And content is not always text. Content is also videos and images and structured data. And if you understand what the user really wants, then you create a page, and this is what we call holistic page, or holistic website. And this is the future, and this is a data-driven approach, because you can't just do it out of a gut feeling. You need to have data, you need to have things like, okay, what are kind of questions do people care about? What kind of structure they expect. If you are a recipe page and you have full content, just content, no structure for recipe stuff, nobody will read this stuff. Because if I want to see a recipe, I want to have, okay, first step is this, second step is this, third step is this. So this is what you have to keep in mind, and that needs to be data-driven. And because data-driven means you can measure stuff, we as Searchmetrics, since 4 years, we are collecting the most important ranking factors. Every year we have new factors. This year, especially in mobile, we discovered a lot of new factors that nobody spoke about, and I will share these ideas with you. So this is something, especially in Turkey, where the penetration of mobile devices is so high, is higher than in Germany. Mobile is very important. But before I start talk about the correlations, I want to give you 2 examples why you don't see a correlation equals a causation immediately. If there is a connection, this is something where we need to use our brain, okay? So use the brain. So I give you 2 examples of where correlation doesn't mean causation. There's a correlation of people at the beach eating ice cream and also people at the beach getting a sunburn, right? People at the beach, probably they happen to have a sunburn. People like to eat ice cream at the beach. But it doesn't mean because people eat ice cream, they get a sunburn. So this is something you need to keep in mind. Or the same with the stork. There's a small little village in South Germany. In this small little village, they have the highest concentration of storks in this area, and they also have the highest birth rate in Germany. But it doesn't mean because of these storks, that's why they have more babies, okay? So this is what you need to keep in mind. Another example, and then please download the stuff, it's for free. We also have the white papers. You can use this to convince your boss, hey boss, we need to do this and this and that. Here, Searchmetrics said so. So this is how you can use it. Here are 4 lines within that chart. I also put the factors here in the legend. And very important is to understand that a high correlation doesn't mean a high ranking factor. And the low correlation also means that it is not necessarily unimportant. Because if you take a look on the first line, the blue line here, it has a correlation of 0. But it has a high appearance. Because on the y-axis, you see the appearance from 0 to 100, 100%. If you see this dotted blue line, it's very low. It has the same correlation. The correlation is also 0. But the percentage is here only 20%. So the difference is, the first light blue line says, everybody is doing it. So it means it's a high ranking factor, even if the correlation is 0. And the second blue line means it's very low coverage, correlation is 0, so very likely it's not a good ranking factor. Okay. Let's keep this in mind. You can download this stuff. You can read through it. It's 65 pages. You can read it in the bus, in the train, whatever. That's a good lecture, definitely. And why is it important? Because we are in the middle of a disruption of technology. 10 years ago, it was normal that you sat on the couch, have your laptop on your knees, and then you were typing. So it was mainly PC-driven. But if you take a look now, the disruption of technology means you have different devices, and these different devices have different use cases. So the smartphones, even if everybody has a smartphone, it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody's doing the same with a smartphone. He's not subsidizing the PC. Because when I use my smartphone, I use it for things like entertainment or a quick information checking. If I want to, let's say, if I want to book a trip, a flight from Istanbul to London to San Francisco, which I do on Sunday, I don't do it on my phone. But I use, for example, Kayak on my phone to get information, but the booking I will definitely do on my PC because it's a better user experience. That's why this disruption of technology is so important, because people have different use cases on their devices. So game over for old SEO because desktop is dead. What does it mean? So let's I mean, rise of mobile, I think that's nothing new. Google has more mobile searches than on devices in 10 countries now. That's nothing new. But let's talk, if we talk about mobile, let's talk about one specific date. A date that Danny Sullivan called Mobile Get-On. It happened April 21st this year. It was a Google Mobile update. And I will show you what happened at the Google Mobile update. So before the Google Mobile update, we had 68 pages that were mobile-friendly within organic search on mobile devices. After the update, immediately after the update, we had 71%. So it means Google made a shift, updates. But if Google is making updates, who lost? Because if there's a shift, who were the losers? So I took two different examples of losers, and you will see why they lost. The first one is Reddit. Reddit.com is a social creation community where they have a lot of content and they have a lot of Q&A comments, so it's very popular. They do a lot of AMAs, so ask me anything. And if you do the mobile-friendly test, Reddit.com is not mobile-friendly. Everybody can do this for free on Google. If you click on the result on Reddit.com in 2015 in April, you went on their normal desktop page, and that's a bad user experience. If it's a page where you need to zoom in, pinch, you need to find the information, that's really, really bad on a phone. So it happened, and it's measurable, that they lost 36% of their visibility at this update. 36% of the traffic on mobile phones coming from search engines within one day. But they recovered, as you can see. So how they recovered? And this is the effect, by the way. It's not a penalty. It's not a penalty. That's important. It's something where others that are mobile-friendly get a bonus instead of that you get a penalty. So what happened is, so Reddit is still not mobile-friendly, which is interesting, but they have a mobile version now. They have an m.reddit.com. And with this mobile alternative, they made it to increase their rankings again, so desktop and mobile is equal now. So you can measure all this stuff within our Searchmetrics suite. Also, if you want to have it only in Istanbul or only in Izmir and only in other cities in Turkey. So that's pretty interesting to see because there are slight differences. So this is how they recovered, but let's talk about another example, which is Last.fm. So it's a very popular music page. So they had a similar problem. They lost 31% of their visibility overnight, and they recovered just a couple of weeks ago. So, but what they did is they built a responsive design. On the same URL, they have now two different versions. That was the page in April 2015. It was a desktop page, not user-friendly. Now the page is user-friendly, large fonts, large images, much, much better on the mobile device. So they recovered too. What is different on mobile devices? I guess that many of you still believe that on mobile devices, I only need a responsive design, right? Different CSS. With JavaScript, I can switch to CSS on the fly. So I have a different device. I have my PC, I have my mobile phone. But that's actually not true anymore. There's a time coming when people will talk about things like responsive content. Content that's changing based on the device because the behavior is different. And because of this, we as Searchmetrics, we try to understand how content is made, and we analyze a couple of factors that nobody analyzed before, and I will show you the results, and it's pretty amazing. Because desktop and mobile is definitely not the same anymore. Here, by the way, here are the URLs where you can download the studies. Like I said, it's completely free. One of the factors that we analyzed is structure. Because we humans, we like order. Yeah? We want to find things as fast as possible, especially on mobile devices. My attention on a mobile device is much less than on my desktop. Because on a desktop, I sit on my chair, on my desk, I have more time. When I'm on the go with my mobile device, I want to have stuff fast as possible. So we try to analyze, is the content differently structured on mobile devices? And it is. So what is structured content? So that's one example. So it's an unordered list, so there are ordered lists, so bullet points, so 1, 2, 3. So this is how we see partially the structure. And what you can see is, and that's really interesting, to read that chart on the x-axis, you get position number 1, and then on the right, you get position number 30. On the y-axis, you get the percentage of usage. And what you can see, if you have a chart that's going from up to down, up to the bottom, it means there's a positive correlation that successful pages, they use structured data or structured content more often on their page than non-successful pages. I hope that's understandable. If not, just ask me in one of the breaks here in between. I can show you a couple examples. I have one example in here, but I can show you more examples. And if you compare this to desktop, you see that on mobile devices, things like unordered lists, they're used more often, 30% more often, or 30% difference, sorry, it's more than 30% more, it's 100% more, than on desktop. I have an example, it's a Wikipedia page. On the left, you see the Istanbul page on Wikipedia on a mobile device. On the right, you see it on a desktop. Do you see a difference? It's a slight difference, right? Just a little bit. It's like being in a plane. Oh, I have it after that. And it's really different. So, and you even see it here on Wikipedia. They use lists here, Istanbul, the headline, and then the list below with the Istanbul and Istanbul with the Turkish pronunciation. It's different to the desktop version. You can also measure stuff like the number of links, buttons on a page. We call this interactive elements, call to action elements, links whatsoever. You can see, you can measure it, that on a mobile device, there are less links within content than on desktop. So it means if you believe that you can just take the same content than on your desktop and have a new design for mobile devices, that's not enough. It's not enough because on a mobile phone, you need to find ways to present the content in a way that the user can digest the content easier and faster. The font size is different too. This is something you can also read in the study. This is another example. That's again the Istanbul page, but now take a look on something else. I have it here highlighted in red. And that's a big thing. You don't recognize it anymore. If you browse on your phone on Safari or on Google Chrome or so, if you start browsing, you need to recognize that on your phone you use the full screen equity. So take the look on the left-hand side with the iPhone example here. You don't see the title tag of the page anymore. Just do it on your phone and you will see you don't see the title tag anymore. You don't even see the full URL. So on the screen, you see just the landing page, the app. And if you start scrolling, you don't even see the browser bar anymore. On the desktop, you see the tabs. Here, you see the URL, you see the tabs. It's a different experience. On the desktop, it matters, for example, the title tag. Because if in the title tag is my brand, so I'm I don't know, Media Market, or I'm another electronic retailer, and I see this in the tab, great. I can click, I can find it, awesome. On a mobile device, it's a different experience. That's why you need to keep this in mind, because the title tag is important, definitely, but on a mobile device, maybe people don't see it anymore. They see it in search, but they don't see it if they're on the website. So browsing is different, right? So you have a large cockpit here. So maybe some of you remember Microsoft Flight Simulator using many screens in the past. That's what I did when I was younger. And the difference on a mobile device. Okay, let's talk about links. And I have something Jigit said in his presentation, links will be still counted in the future. I tell you, in the future, they won't be counted, at least for a majority of them, and I will also tell you why. So where we are going, we don't need links. I will tell you why. First thing is, if you just count the number, just the number of links for desktop pages and for mobile pages, like en.m.wikipedia.org or m.reddit.com, these alternatives, you can clearly see that the rough number of links on mobile devices or mobile pages is less if it's not responsive design when it's the same page. It is measurable, okay? That's the first thing. The next thing is, last week Google announced that Google is now indexing app content. I don't know if you read this, but this is a big thing. I don't mean app indexing in general. I mean that they index app content without the need that there is a website. They index content, for example, the New York subway app or New York transportation app is one of their test drives, and they don't have a mobile website. They don't. They only have the app. And Google is crawling the content from the app via an XML format and then showing them in the rankings. Why is this so important? Because you can't link to app content. It's not possible. It's content within a native app that you can access on your phone. Google accesses the content through APIs via XML and so on, but you can't link to that stuff. So how can Google rank app content if there's no website that can somebody link to? That's why I believe in the future, on mobile, for example, links will be completely obsolete. Desktop will be different, I'm pretty sure, but on mobile it will be different. Just compare reddit.com and m.reddit.com. Sure, it makes sense because it's a newer landing page or newer subdomain, but you can see it in the numbers. It's many less links for their mobile version than their desktop version. So it makes sense that, especially on mobile devices, links will be counted differently. Next thing, I don't know what the time is because there's no countdown. It's a little bit crazy. So maybe in Turkey I can speak as long as I want. Okay, I don't know. Okay, the speed of a site really matters too. I mean, there are large companies like Amazon. They made studies, and in this study they found out that every second the website loads longer, 50% of people drop. They bounce even before the page is finished. 1 second, 50%. So as you can see here also, the speed of mobile sites is faster than desktop. But also you can see that more successful pages, they have a faster website. So if you think about, maybe we're going to do the next link building campaign, or I use my resources or my budget to improve the speed of my mobile site, I would definitely go for the improvement of the speed of your mobile site. There's a new project from Google, it's called AMP. It's a project where Google gives you a framework that's ready to improve the speed of your mobile pages. You should definitely check it out. AMP, and I think it's ampproject.org, something like this. Just search for Google AMP. That's, I guess, for sure that the word count, the length of content on mobile pages is less than desktop. It makes sense. I have an example here again with the Istanbul page of Wikipedia. You can see that the count of words on the mobile version is less than on the desktop. It's just 600 words, but it's measurable. Then the next thing, and I have a pretty good example, is if you create content, you need to understand what does the user want to read and what do I offer, because you need to match. If you don't match, you can't be relevant. So we have factors we call relevant terms, so we can measure the relevancy of the terms used within content. And I show you one example, so let's just switch to that example quick. Jigit was mentioning latent semantic indexation. So we go one step further. We want to show you semantic relationships between words. We have computer linguistic experts within Searchmetrics. And what we do is we do things like term frequency and n-gram analysis. And I have one example here. This is a page about Seattle attractions. It's a page that ranks on the second Google page. It's groupon.com. And what I want to show you here, that's why it's so interesting, is there are attractions in Seattle that are heavily visited, and they're heavily important, like Pike Place Market or Pioneer Square. They're really important in Seattle, but Groupon is not mentioning these attractions. Or more stuff like Space Needle, International District, Downtown, Waterfront. So it means they have a page, it's optimized for Seattle attractions from the keyword basis. So on your typical checklist, they would get all checks. But the thing is, they're not mentioning the most important attractions. So if they don't mention these attractions, how can they be relevant for Seattle attractions? And this is how you should see it. If you create content, you need to understand what does the user really want to read. Don't look at the keyword. And I'm almost finished. Don't have a slide at the end with this is slide number whatsoever, okay? If you want to have it, I can tell you. There's still a lot of slides. So what is also different on mobile and desktop? And this is something you can measure. If you go into Google Keyword Planner or within our software, we can tell you for all of your keywords, what is the share of searches on the mobile, on the desktop, and on the tablet. Next question. What is the keyword with the highest search volume on mobile devices, also with the ratio? What is the keyword that people search most often in the US, that's the US example, on mobile devices, and very little only on desktop? Do we have an idea? Think about Google Now, Google, voice search. Yeah, that's definitely going in the right direction. Because it's a question, or it's more like a command. It is maybe also very important here in Turkey. I'm pretty sure it's call mom. How is it in Turkish? Do you have a call mama? I mean, what is it in Turkish? What is it? Oh, okay. So I would definitely have to look it up in our software. So interesting is Call Mom has a search volume of 300,000 searches a month in average, and is 99% used on smartphones and just 1% used on desktop. We as Searchmetrics, we've wrote an article about it, about this study, and we rank with Call Mom in Germany on #1 with our blog on desktop. How much traffic do we get? 10 to 15 users a day. And the reason is because almost nobody is searching for it on the desktop, because it's a command that you tell your phone, like call mom, and it calls the mom. So Google is using voice search to just do a regular search and then is doing an action. That's why also things like find restaurants around me have a high search volume, because they're heavily used on smartphones. All right, you can measure all the stuff, you can measure it with Searchmetrics. Important is that you keep in mind that you need to make this research for your audience and create a content based on this. Because if you create content that you like on your desktop, that your boss sees in his office on a desktop, oh, you did a great job with your content, great, it looks awesome, but on a smartphone it looks bad, and the people are searching for it mostly on the smartphone, then you created a bad user experience. It's not apples to apples, it's apples and peers, it's very different. And yeah, whatever, it's my last slide, here it is. Thank you very much for your attention, and like I said, I'm here for all your questions. I believe this is really an important topic and very exciting to be in this industry at this time. Thank you very much. All right.